Good afternoon, lovely people. Me again. Hope you've had a lovely day and managed to avoid the dreaded wet play. I know that's Mrs. Woodward's all-time favourite thing at school. Not. So hopefully you've managed to have lots of time outside today where it's just so much nicer. I'm going to get right to it today. Yesterday with Miss Bradley, you ended it where there was a lot of lies going on in the story, not from Miss Bradley, I hope. And they left it where Kat and Ted were on a mission. They'd become a team and they were on a mission to go out and find the truth. So hopefully today we will find out what that truth is. So we're going from chapter 29, which is called Pursuit. Pursuit. Which means that they are after something, they're chasing something. So I think they're probably chasing the truth, aren't they? That's what they're trying to find out. So let's go. But we couldn't find him. The exhibition hall was full to bursting. My hand flapped so much that Kat told me to shove it in under my jacket. By now she was reverting to mean, mad Miss Catastrophe, and our minds were at polar extremes. We ended up back at the entrance. There were several guards on duty, but the strange man wasn't among them. Kat approached a female guard who was in the middle of searching someone's bag. "'Scuse, miss," Kat said. The woman looked round, lips turned down. "What?" she snapped. "Do you know where Christy is?" "Christy? What's it to you?" "He's a friend. I've a message for him." "A message? An important message. What about?" "It's private." "Private?" The woman gave the handbag she was searching back to the owner. "He's just radioed. He says he's got a stomach bug. He's leaving for the day, which means me and my two mates here, we're on our own, right? And we've got no time to stand blathering to his friends, right?" "Right," said Kat. "With him it's always the same. Sick this, dentist that, dead uncle the other. Never rains but it pours." Her lips went down. She shook her head. "Ha ha, just like his name. If you do catch him up on the way to the tube, give him a message from me. I'm sick of him being sick. He needn't bother coming in tomorrow. He's fired." "Fired?" I say, thinking of people being burned on a stake in the olden days. "Fired, sacked, given the boot. Take your pick, whatever you want to call it." I stared at her and so did Kat. Then Kat grabbed me by the sleeve. "Hurry, Ted." She dodged past the other people exiting, dragging me with her. I trod on 3 people's feet, but they were big biker men wearing thick black boots and they didn't even notice. We were out in the open air, across the lights, and I'd only just time to notice the weather. High strata cloud, fine sunshine, before we were in the tube station, at the ticket barriers, and we glimpsed the strange man walking towards the eastbound platform. "It's him!" squeaked Kat. "Hurry!" I took my ticket out of my pocket. My hand shook itself out so hard I dropped it. Kat screeched. I picked it up. The machine plucked it from my hand and spat it out on top. "Pick it up, Ted! Pick it up!" I'd forgotten that the barriers don't open until you'd retrieved your ticket. I picked it up and went through. "Run!" I ran after her, head off to the side. I saw her hurl herself onto a waiting train. The doors beeped, about to close. I stepped on and got trapped. It felt like I was being squeezed from 3 dimensions into 2. Kat heaved at the doors and yanked me in. Off! She turned into a tornado, an unstoppable force. "He's in the next carriage down, not far from the door. I can see him," she said. "I'll keep my eye on him. We'll get off when he does." It was a rattling old-style tube train that screeched and jerked. We held tight to the bar as it took the sharper bends. Sloane Square, Victoria, Blackfriars, Tower Hill, Aldgate East. The tube destination said Upminster. Were we going all the way out there? After Stepney Green, Kat stooped into a crouch like a tiger about to spring and dragged me into the stooping position too. "He's getting up," she hissed. The train braked. It pulled into Mile End and halted. There was a pause. Seconds ticked by. Everybody waited silently. A man opposite tapped his foot on the floor. With a swoosh, the doors opened. Kat grabbed me and flew off the train, almost knocking over a gentle man trying to board. "Sorry," she muttered. Pulling me after her by the sleeve of my sweatshirt, she ran behind a chocolate machine. The strange man was walking briskly down the platform and up a flight of steps. "Now!" said Kat. We emerged from behind the chocolate machine. "Don't run," Kat said. "Saunter." "Saunter?" I said. "I'm not very good at sauntering." But I did my best. We sauntered down the platform, up the steps, through the ticket barrier to the street entrance. Kat spotted him across the street. We crossed too, and did some more sauntering behind him. He never looked round. His hands were in his jacket pockets and his head was down as if he was having a long train of thought. He paused at a corner by some traffic lights and outside a pub called the Falcon Arms. We stopped too. After a moment he went inside the pub. It was a large, grubby building with big bay windows and no curtains. It had a drooping white banner across the entrance saying, "Open all day." Above it swung a sign showing a picture of a falcon perched on a branch with a mouse in its beak. You could tell from the way the mouse's tail was flying behind that in the picture there was a strong wind, maybe gale force 7. "What now, Kat?" I said. "We wait," Kat said. "Wait," I said. "As long as it takes. You know what Dad says? What? Pubs are like black holes. People go in there and never come out again." He's only joking though, Ted. We stood on the street corner for 5 minutes. Kat got restless. The traffic streamed by. Kat said she felt like a sore thumb. Her thumb looked fine to me. I was just about to ask what she meant when she said, "I'm going to sneak up to that pub window, Ted. You stay put." I watched her sneak forward. She approached the bay window like a 00 agent on a mission to save the world. "He's propping up the bar," she hissed over to me. I imagined a bar on wobbly trestles, liable to fall down at any moment. She took another look inside. "He's got a long glass of dark brown stuff in front of him, and he's hardly even touched it," she reported. "He's watching TV on a big screen." She rejoined me. "He could be in there for some time. Let's cross and wait by the television shop near that bus station. We can watch TV while we wait, and people will just think we're waiting for the bus." We crossed over by the lights and stared at the TV images in the window. People chatting, laughing, shaking their heads, a mid-afternoon game show. We could see but not hear them. We had 18 different TVs to choose from, but they were all tuned to the same channel. The game show ended and the news came on. 18 screens of soldiers in a foreign country walking up dusty streets with heavy guns. 18 screens of African children with flies around their large eyes and no clothes on. You could tell they were starving. 18 screens of the Prime Minister giving a speech at a convention, his 2 hands shaking themselves out over the podium as he spoke, a bit like mine. Then 18 screens of our living room, our sofa, times 18. Rashid, times 18. Auntie Gloria, with her white sweater, her orange lips and pale cheeks, times 18. She was talking. The cameras went in close. I could see the word "please." Kat gasped. "Auntie Glo!" Kat squeaked. "Our living room on TV." "I forgot to tell you," I said. "You forgot to tell me. They called in the press." "The press?" "They came in a big van." "They came while I was gone?" "Yes, Kat. And you didn't tell me?" "No, Kat." Kat rolled her eyes. "I didn't have a chance, Kat, not with all those motorbikes." We watched as the 18 shots of our living room switched to 18 pictures of Salem. The one of him in his school blazer, looking neither happy nor sad, and then to a telephone number for contacting the police. The story ended. The next was about the latest mission to Mars and showed a robotic probe collecting specimens from the planet crust. Kat stared at it without seeing it, chanting, "Our living room on TV," to herself. She was interested in the pictures of the bare landscape, wondering what the Martian weather conditions were like and if life might have ever existed there. Neither of us noticed until it was too late. A firm hand grasped my shoulder, and Kat's. I turned round. So did Kat. We were face to face with the strange man. He smelled of alcohol. His eyes were slits. His lips were pressed up tight. I knew what that meant. Anger. Extreme anger. His grip hardened on my shoulder so it hurt. "You again," he hissed. Chapter 30. The Road to Nowhere. Cat said nothing. I said nothing. His grip relaxed. He took a step back. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. You followed me, didn't you? You followed me here from the scooter show. Cat nodded. That missing kid, the one on the news, is that who you're looking for? Yes, said Cat. He's not just some kid. He's our cousin, Salim. And why do you think I had anything to do with it? Because it was right after you gave us that ticket. Salim went up the London Eye, but he never came down again. The strange man looked at us with one side of his lip up, the other down. His nose scrunched up, his eyebrows bunched together. Crazy kids, he said, but he wasn't looking at us. He had his eyes raised upwards as if we were floating above him in the air. We're not crazy, Cat said. He looked down again and gave a strange kind of smile. This cousin of yours, he went up the eye and never came down, you say? Yes. Kids don't just vanish into thin air, Cat sighed. That's what the police said. The man's eyes shifted round from her face to mine. It's serious, Cat said. The police are looking for him, and now it's all over the TV. I don't know anything about it. I told you before. Did you really just buy a ticket and not decide to use it? The man looked around and backed away. It wasn't exactly like that, he said. A bus crammed with passengers had pulled up at the nearby stop. A woman with a buggy struggled to get on. The driver stared at her, with his lips turned down. The strange man glanced at the bus and then looked at us. It was this bird, he said, his words speeding up. The bus revved up. The wheels of the buggy spun as the woman seesawed it onto the platform. My hand was shaking itself out. This bird in the queue, that's who I got the ticket from. A bird, I said, thinking of crows and pigeons. A dark-haired chick. Nobody I knew. I was just passing. She called me over and said how her boyfriend hadn't shown and she didn't want to waste the ticket, but she didn't want to lose her boarding slot either, so she asked me to go over and give it to you. Why us? Asked Cat. The man shrugged. Dunno, you were kids. Right at the back of the queue, I guess. She took pity on you. Suddenly he dashed over to the bus just before the driver shuts the door. It's her you need to talk to, not me, if you can find her. And then he gave a strange laugh. Wait! Screamed Cat. Don't go! Wait! She ran after him, but the cross-looking driver shook his head at her and shouted, Full up! And shut the door in her face. The strange man raised his palms upwards as well as his hands, and the bus jerked forward and gathered speed down the high street. Hell! Said Cat. I said. Shut up! Cat shouted. The bus, along with the strange man, disappeared under a bridge. Cat clenched her fists and banged them on her thighs like she was a boxer fighting herself. Then she kicked a Coke can on the pavement into the gutter. The road to nowhere, she said in a voice so loud that passers-by stared at us. One great big bloody waste of time. That's what this is. On the word time, she crushed her boot down on the Coke can. Road to bloody nowhere. The boot stamped up and down. The Coke can went pancake flat. Nowhere. She burst into tears. And which way's the bloody tube now? I've bloody well forgotten. Well, she was all about the language in that chapter, wasn't she? Chapter 31, hopefully she's a little bit calmer now, is called Tornado Touchdown Time. Somehow Cat found the way back to the tube. She stomped up the high street with me trying to keep up and my hand flapping, and then she asked directions from a man who was painting a railing, and he pointed a finger and she stomped on, acting as if I wasn't there. And I kept up after her until we got onto the tube. We travelled the long way home in silence. Then we walked back up the main road and into our street, and she still said nothing, but she let me walk beside her now, and her lips were turned down, which meant she was more sad than angry. Outside our house, she stopped and said, We're for it, Ted. Our hair isn't even wet. I touched my hair, confused, and then I remembered. We were supposed to have been gone swimming. Maybe we can just sneak in, Cat whispered. She got out her key and was about to put it in the lock when the door flew open. Mum stood in front of us, barring the way. Her hair was messy and her eyes were as wide as volcano craters. She dangled our swimming gear before our eyes. Cat's bikini, 2 sets of goggles, my trunks. She spluttered, dropped the lot, hugged us, cuffed Cat round the ear and screeched, You disobedient, lying, cheeky chit. That was chit, just to be sure. And as for you, Ted, I'm shocked. I don't know what's got into you, writing that lie about going swimming. I've been worried witless. Kat walked past her with her hands over her ears. Don't you swan off like that until I finish with you. I hovered in the doorway, frowning and thinking of swans gliding away in the pond in the park. Then I mumbled, Sorry, Mum. Sorry, Mum. Because I knew she was angry, but she didn't hear me. I picked up the things she dropped. She yanked me into the house, and I slammed the door. That Mrs. Hopper across the road's been peering out again. God only knows what the neighbours think. TV crews, police cars, I've just about had it. Gloria's gone mental. You two vanish. Have you any idea how I'm feeling? Kat laughed. She kicked the skirting board and hooted. The neighbours? She screeched. She doubled over. Typical grown-up crap. Her voice went up an octave and she crooned, God only knows what the neighbours think. Is that all you care about, Mum? What the neighbours think? We've been trying to help, trying to find Salem, but you're not interested, are you? You don't want to know what we think, do you? All you care about is what the neighbours think. Salem might be dead for all you care. Mum stood eyeball to eyeball with Kat. I realised they were exactly the same height these days. Don't you dare say that about me. Don't you dare. Mum's hand darted up as if to hit Kat hard on the cheek, but it froze about a centimetre off target. Her voice trailed off. The temperature in the hallway seemed to plummet to minus 30 degrees. Kat stared at Mum, her eyes round. Go on. Hit me, she hissed. You know you want to. Mum shook her head, and I could see tears falling down her cheek. Her hand fell to her side. I stepped forward. Mum? Kat? I said, but they paid no attention to me. And then Kat's lips started to wobble. She pushed Mum out of her way, wailing, I hate you! I hate you! She ran upstairs, tripping halfway. Hate you! Hate you! A bedroom door slammed, and then something upstairs crashed. It was tornado touchdown time, or tea times 3 in our house. This is my way of describing what it's like when people have really bad arguments, and it is the worst place to be in all the world. Mum slumped on the bottom stair, head down in her hands. Her shoulders heaved, and she made a strange noise. I had never seen Mum like that before. Oh no, she moaned, rocking herself. Is there no end to this? I wasn't sure who she was talking to, and looked around. I was the only one there, which meant she was talking either to me or to God. Oh God, oh God, oh God, she said. So it was God, not me. I was free to go. I decided to check out the weather in the backyard. Chapter 32. Solar Wind. I walked fast through the kitchen and out into the back garden, my hand flapping. The general synopsis at 1800 issued by the Met Office. Fitzroy, mainly northerly. 4 or 5, becoming variable, thundery showers. I did my pacing, counted the strides it took to get from one side of the back garden to the other. 12.5 strides long, 7 across. I ducked under the line of dry clothes, grabbing onto a sheet. I left a grubby stain. My fingers were still black from going through the phone book earlier. Eye of the needle solutions. That's what I needed, a solution for the impossible. How you get through a needle point. How you disappear from a sealed pod. I thought of the girl on the motorbike, the pink sleeve in the photo. I thought of Dad's razor blade. I thought of the strange man and the lady. How he was fired, and him saying we should find the bird with the dark hair. And I thought of what Aunt Gloria had said earlier. If brains alone could bring Salem back, yours would do it, Ted. I held my hands over my ears and I shook out my head. My brain felt like it was overheated, going into meltdown. I paced the garden and recounted my steps, only this time the number came out wrong. 11.5 strides instead of 12.5, so either my legs had grown in the last few minutes, or the universe had shrunk instead of expanded. Oh, I went, like the Earl's Court motorbikes. I looked up at the sky, evening, high strata cloud, fresh, southwesterly, but air pressure falling. One of Dad's shirts on the line flapped against my head. The wind was picking up. I walked over to the garden shed and kicked it a few times. I'm not a philosopher. I'm a meteorologist, but I believe in meditation. Buddhists believe that if you empty out your head, That's when you find enlightenment. Kicking the shed is a very good way of emptying out your head. It's just like jumping on a trampoline. You kick or jump. You jump or kick, and eventually all the thoughts march out of your ears like a line of toy soldiers heading for the edge of the table. You're left with nothing, the empty nothing I told Salem about, which is frightening and lonely but simple and clear. I shut my eyes and imagined a vast silent void. I kept up the kicking. By the 87th kick, I was empty inside, and a kind of solar wind arrived in my brain. A storm of charged particles rushed through my head like lightning, giving off strange flashes of coloured light. A picture formed. It was like the aurora borealis burning in my brain. It sparkled so hard it hurt. The pattern I'd half glimpsed earlier that day flooded back, but this time it didn't vanish. I caught it. I hung on to it. I made it freeze like ice, and then I knew. Not where Salem was, but how he'd vanished like he had. Ooh. Well, it was a very heated few chapters today. I apologise for the language, but the authors obviously used it for intent to show just how passionate and cross Cat was as a character. So we've had that conversation many a time in Blackman about language being okay if the author's using it for a purpose. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next week when it's my turn again. Bye, guys.